Flex Kavana, the match just about to happen.
You know, that's right, Dave. When they told me earlier this week that I was going to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler, I did a little thinking, Dave. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? Week in and week out, whether it's here in the USWA or whether it's Monday Night Raw with the WWF, Jerry Lawler is always running his mouth. Well, I thought about it, Dave, and you know what? If Jerry Lawler says that he's half the man he thinks he is, then he'll give me a title shot. He'll give me a unified world title shot right here Saturday morning on TV, right in front of all the good people of the USWA.
Well. We got Flex Kavana out here trying to play a little mind game with the king. Trying to make a few little witty comments. I understand he spends half his time trying to be witty. That makes him a half-wit, right?
The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
Here we are at Jerry Lawler's Memphis Barbecue Company, and we're about to order King. King, I'm curious. What are you going to order this afternoon? It doesn't matter what you're going to order.
Oh, no, I cannot believe I let you get that over on me. I should have known since our show is going to be about The Rock, you would come up with something stupid like that.
Oh, come on. That's a classic Rock line.
Yes, that was a classic Rock line, but for you to use it on me, that's not classic. That's not good. Wow. But anyway, I'm going to order the smoked sausage sandwich today.
Okay, and I'm getting a tray for two because I'm extra hungry today. I'm getting some brisket and some sausage, some mac. Well,
guess what I'm having? Guess what I'm having for dessert today?
Oh, what?
Poontang pie, you idiot!
Some poontang pie.
Of course.
Jesus, you know The Rock did a whole song about poontang pie.
Yes, I know he did.
Oh.
I hope we get to play that during the show today.
Oh.
That was one of my favorites of all time. I mean, you know, some of the things that The Rock got away with was just, that's what made me love the Attitude Era so much. the stuff The Rock got away with and Stone Cold Steve Austin got away with. That was so awesome.
Now, our episode this week is all about The Rock, and we're going to talk about Rocky Johnson because you had a feud with The Rock's father, Rocky Johnson, also in Memphis. We have some classic audio of The Rock in Memphis, his promos, just some of the time he did in Memphis before he was called up. And obviously there's a whole slew of audio clips from, WWE days, just his promos and whatnot.
Do you have the clip of The Rock's very first words that he ever uttered on a television show?
Yeah, I have that. I tweeted it out earlier.
When he was about how old? What do you think? Maybe
I think 4.
4 years old.
Yeah.
Dewey, I bet you can't wait to open up that package canyon.
What? You want to open your Christmas present? Yeah, Christmas.
Rocky, I'm sure all the fans in Memphis would like to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
I looked it up. He was 4 years old, and this was a 1976 Memphis Wrestling Christmas special, and in the home of Rocky Johnson. And you had Dewey and Rocky Johnson's wife, The Rock's mother, obviously.
Dewey, of course, later on become The Rock.
And The Rock, I'm not used to seeing The Rock with a full-headed hair. I mean, we always see the pineapple haircut that he had early on, especially in Memphis, and then, the short haircut as The Rock, and then going bald later on. But he had a full-headed hair as a little, 4-year-old kid. That's the most hair I've seen on The Rock's head ever. But, yeah, it was
Yes.
But like you said, this episode is all about The Rock. This is all about Rocky Johnson, just The Rock's family, because you are you're deeply rooted in the history of the wrestling career of Rocky Johnson, but also getting The Rock's start and being part of his early on in his career. And obviously, you've had a front row seat to The Rock's career, being a commentator for WWE all through his big high profile matches, and we'll talk about some of those as well. But I'm more interested to hear about your weekend with Terry Funk, because we had Terry Funk on the show last week. It's gotten rave reviews from a lot of people talking about Funk. It was the best podcast they ever listened to, not just for this show, but ever.
Well, that's because what we talked about that. Terry Funk is without a doubt, even at the advanced age that he is right now, he's still one of the most entertaining and has always been one of the most entertaining guys on the mic, on television, anywhere, and especially if it's just being around him in the locker room. He's just an entertaining guy because he speaks his mind. He has no filter. He's going to say what, the first thing that comes to his mind is going to come out of his mouth. And that's what you got to love about the guy. He's just an honest, real guy.
I talked to him on Thursday, and I wanted to call him and tell him about the podcast, making sure to let him know that everybody appreciated hearing him. And, well, after a few cuss words about you, Jerry, he was appreciative of all the fans loving him on the podcast. And I don't think that's going to be the only time we hear from Terry Funk on Dinner with the King, Jerry.
Yeah, he did have the occasion to tell me that he sort of enjoyed doing the podcast, is what he said. But and he did say that he would come back on sometime in the future. But I don't know what we'll have to talk to him about then.
I'm sure there'll be something he can cuss you about.
Maybe the fact that I threw a metal folding chair and hit him right above the eye, hit him right in the head during the first match the night in Raleigh. He might want to talk about that a little bit, because I know that he as soon as it hit him, he said the same thing that he said on the show many times. He called me the same thing. He said, "You son of a bitch."
Yeah, Jerry, we got kids around.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Excuse me, but that's quoting Terry Funk.
How was your? You had two matches with Terry, obviously tag teaming with your son Brian Christopher, Grandmaster Sexay, and then you had Dangerous Doug Gilbert on your side, and facing off against the Rock and Roll Express and Terry Funk. Two matches in the Carolinas. I watched the first one because somebody was broadcasting them live via their cell phone. So I watched the first one, sitting here in Cleveland. When I was in Cleveland.
When you were in Cleveland, yes.
And then I didn't know what happened with the second one, but how was your weekend overall, just in the Carolinas, making towns with Terry Funk?
Well, of course, I only saw Terry at the shows themselves. I made towns with my son Brian and Dangerous Doug Gilbert, and that was a experience. Doug Gilbert is without a doubt the worst driver that I've ever been in a car with. He literally, I mean this with all seriousness, we came within the inches or whiskers of having about 4 wrecks. I mean, one of them would have been major. That's how bad his driving was. I couldn't believe I couldn't believe he didn't get stopped. He was speeding like crazy the entire trip. He's just a horrible driver. But thank goodness he was along on the trip to kind of help me keep Brian in line. So all in all, that part went well. We told a bunch of old Memphis stories, and the funny thing, that the dressing room, even Tommy Rich was on the show as well. And at one point we were sitting there looking around, and it was like, man, it was like one of the old Memphis locker rooms, and of course all the Memphis stories were flying. There was Tommy Rich, Robert Gibson, Ricky Morton, me, Brian Christopher, Doug Gilbert, Terry Funk sitting over there. So just a ton of the Memphis guys on hand for the show, and they were both a lot of fun. The promoter did a great job, big crowds in both the cities, and so the shows were fun. Terry did say, Terry's one of those guys that after the match and he comes back, I'm sure that, I don't know how many times he's officially retired, but he retires after every match. He'll come back and sit down and just say, "That's it, no more. That was my last match. I'm never doing this again." So this is like, and that's the way he announced it. That's the way they announced Terry Funk. This is the first night in Raleigh. This is Terry Funk's last ever match in the state of North Carolina. And then the same thing the next night. This is Terry Funk's last final ever match in the state of South Carolina. So in those two states, folks, you've seen the last of Terry Funk.
Maybe. You never know.
Maybe. Right. Never.
Maybe. Never know. So it was great to be able to watch the first one live as it was going on. So that was a special treat for me. It was like a pile driver party. We all know about the super kick party, but it was like a pile driver party with pile drivers being handed out left and right.
Yeah, somebody came up with the idea of turning it into a pile driver parade, and what we didn't think to maybe take into account was has any of these people ever taken a pile driver before? Yeah, so it was decided. I gave Terry Funk a pile driver, and then the referee in the match was going to admonish me about giving Terry Funk a pile driver, so I was going to give him the boot in the gut, pile drive him. Then that would bring on the other referees, to try to restore order. And as each of those referees got in the ring, they would get a pile driver as well. So, it went bad right from the get-go. The Terry Funk pile driver didn't even go right. I don't know. I don't know. I first, you kick the guy in the gut. He bends all the way over to where his head can go between your legs. And then you reach down, grab him around the waist, and lift him up. The legs go straight up in the air, and then boom, you sit back and bang, there, you pile drive him. Well, I knew it wasn't going to go good from the get-go when I booted Terry in the gut, and he bent over maybe about 6 inches.
Oh.
So we're still like looking each other in the eye. So I reach back and grab him by the back of his head, and I start trying to pull him all the way over to where he could touch his toes. And Terry doesn't bend that far anymore. It was almost impossible to get his head between my legs. But then I'd reach down, I get my hands around his waist, and I would pull. And you got to have a little help with a 255-pound guy. So as I try to pull him up, his legs are supposed to go up in the air, right?
Yeah.
Well, his legs never went up in the air. I'll tweet out a picture afterwards of when his legs just stayed down, So I wound up lifting him up about 6 or 7 inches off the ground, his feet actually, and I realized, well, looks like his legs aren't going to go up in the air, so I just went ahead and dropped him right there, and he looked like a lowercase N, the letter N. So then, the next referee, the referee then turns me around, and I don't know why I forgot to ask. I just didn't even come to mind to ask these guys, hey, have you ever taken a pile driver? Do you know how to get a pile driver? And I found out after the match that none of them had ever taken a pile driver before. So this guy was basically the same type of pile driver that Terry Funk did. His legs never went up in the air. He just he bent over, and I reached down around his waist, and he was a little heavier than Terry, so I get him up in the air just a little bit. His feet aren't going to go anywhere, so I just, boom, sit back with him. Then by that time, Terry gets up, and Terry was supposed to pile drive the next referee that comes in, and oh my gosh, that one, I don't even know what that looked like, but not anything like a pile driver. So then the third referee comes in, and same thing. He didn't know how to take a pile driver. By that time, Ricky Morton comes running over to me and says, Jesus Christ, give me a pile driver and let me show these guys how to take a pile driver. So the only decent pile driver of the night was when I pile drive Ricky Morton. Then when the match was over, we were standing, me and Doug Gilbert and Brian were standing outside the ring, and some guy yells out on about the third row, hey, King, I thought you knew how to give a pile driver. I said, I do know how to give a pile driver. I said, these guys don't know how to take a pile driver.
Yeah, a pile driver. I mean, especially young guys. Pile driver isn't something they're taught anymore because it seems to be, it's outlawed in WWE. It's just not a move that's done anymore because of the dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous if the person doesn't know how to take it. That could be a serious injury too.
Exactly. These guys are risking by not getting their feet up in the air. They're risking getting hurt more so than if they, like you said, if they know how to take it.
Well, if Jerry Lawler's coming to your town, folks, learn how to take a pile driver.
Yeah, I'm going to give a pile driver seminar somewhere.
That's great.
But anyway, we did, then the second night we decided to forget about the pile drivers. It went much better. That weekend was fun. And man, there were a ton of people there. You know, there were a lot of guys there that were just signing that weren't on the card. But I mean, a lot of Tommy Rich was on the card. Billy Gunn was on the card. Gangrel was on the card.
I think Sergeant Slaughter was there.
Sergeant Slaughter was there. Came over and we talked for a long time. Sergeant Slaughter was there. Kevin Nash was there. Yeah, we talked for a long time. And who else?
Well, was Jimmy there? Jimmy Valiant was there? Yeah,
Jimmy Valiant was there, man. He's got a new gig. He goes out and sings the national anthem.
Oh, yeah? Is he good?
Well, you know, he doesn't kneel. He has to sit in a chair while he does it. So, no, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. He doesn't actually sing the national anthem, but I think it would be a good gig for Jimmy. But he goes out and does the welcome and introduces the national anthem, and then he's there, you know, signing everything. I love handsome Jimmy Valiant. He's one of the greatest stars that we ever had in Memphis wrestling. Made a ton of money with handsome Jimmy.
Friday and Saturday, you're in the Carolinas, and then you have to fly all the way to L.A. for WWE No Mercy to be on the pre-show and be on Raw Talk.
That was the tough part, man. Just we finished, and this is one of those things that always happens to you. You know, you'll take a booking from somebody, and they tell you, okay, you know, you're going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina one night, and then you're going to be in Spartanburg, South Carolina the next. And for some reason, you just don't think about it. I don't know. But anyway, then the day of the show comes, and you wind up having to fly from Memphis to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then get in the car and drive 3 hours from Charlotte to Raleigh. So the drive then was much longer than the flight from Memphis to Charlotte. Hour or so longer. So then you get there for that and you do that show. Then spend the night there. Then you get up the next day and drive to Spartanburg, which that was a long haul. That was almost a 4-hour drive.
A 4-hour tour.
And I was the skipper.
You know, Brian with you and Doug, right?
Yeah, Brian and Doug. So yeah, that was very entertaining. Brian telling us stories about his love life and. I mean, it's goodness gracious. I don't even know how this guy is still alive just because of the ordeal he's had with women in his life.
Well, King, I mean, you can't really rag on Ryan Christopher for his...
Oh, no. Yes, you can. Yes, I can. No, I never had, even with all the, you know, different wives or whatever, I never had the kinds of situations that Brian got himself into.
Well, that's a whole different podcast, King.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we'll get him on there sometime. He don't mind. Oh, he'll tell him. He don't mind.
I know. He'll Grandmaster Sexy.
Yes, exactly. That's where that name came from, I guess. But anyway, then of course I had to get up after Spartanburg. Then we drove back to Charlotte, and we had a hotel there at the airport. Thank goodness it's close. And then I get up at like 5:15 or something. My flight was around 7 o'clock, flying coast to coast all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles, which is it's like a 5-hour flight or something like that.
Well, first class, though, right?
First class, beautiful. Yes, American Airlines was a great flight, and the first class seats were awesome. And I literally went to I went to sleep before the plane even took off. And I woke up as we were landing, so that was good. I got some little rest on the flight there. And then get to Los Angeles and had to go straight to the Staples Center. After I rented my car, straight to the Staples Center, and man, everybody's always, it's an early call because the show starts there. I think the show started at like 4 o'clock. Yeah. The pre-show. So straight to Staples Center. I'm there all day. One of the things that I really noticed, the cast from Glow was there, but a lot of times there are a lot of just different Hollywood or TV or movie celebrities there. But I didn't see many of them other than the cast of Glow. What is Glow?
You don't know what Glow is?
No, what is it? It used to be Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
It's based off the promotion, but it's not. It's a non-fiction. No, it's a fictional, show. So some of the actresses are playing, wrestlers, and it's kind of like it's like a soap opera, but it's all ladies and it's all revolves around wrestling. It was a good show, but yeah, so they were all backstage.
They were all backstage, yeah, and then, but anyway, then wound up doing the pre-show, which was fun. The last pre-show that I did, I guess, was for SummerSlam, and that thing was 2 hours long. And this one seemed like a piece of cake when it was only an hour long. But so we did the pre-show, and then I kind of hang around and watch the pay-per-view and a little football. And then when the pay-per-view was over, we had to do the Raw Talk afterwards, which was pretty unique with John Cena on there. Anyway, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But anyway, did Raw Talk, and then I left immediately from the Staples Center and go straight to the airport and catch a 11 o'clock flight back to Memphis, connecting through Atlanta. And so I got home to Memphis at about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, that's a long weekend for you, King.
Yes, it was. A long weekend.
Cena and Roman Reigns, they battled. Obviously, Reigns, the winner. And Cena, was very, very weird to see the kind of it almost felt like Cena was retiring.
Well, I think we even said it was when you watched that at the end, it was very reminiscent of the Undertaker's last match at WrestleMania. Yeah. It was like, folks, I'm going to look around. I'm going to savor this moment. I'm looking at the crowd. I'm reliving my entire career. It's flashing before my eyes right now, and because this is going to be the last time I'm doing this. That's what it seemed like to me. And then we tried to put him on the spot. Renee Young and I tried to kind of put him on the spot. I don't know if you could tell on TV, but Cena got so emotional he teared up a couple times. And the guy is, I really like John Cena. He's a real guy, and he said on there, he said, a lot of guys in this business are all about themselves, put themselves first and their careers first. And he said, I'm a WWE first guy. And he has always put the company first. And he said that, and he meant that. And so, I think the reason for that match was, and we talked about the mythical passing of the mythical torch. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what that match basically represented. Now, but what John said, up until that match, he felt, and I guess a lot of people felt, that Roman Reigns was not ready to take the torch. But then, he said that, and I asked him, I said, well, in that match, were you thinking about that? Were you thinking, is this guy's performance been up to the point to where he is able to take the torch? And he said, yes. He said, I was proud of him, actually proud of him during the match, and the fact that the promos got better as they got more real towards the end of that, and that he felt that Roman Reigns was the guy and was ready now. So it was an emotional and a real John Cena at that point.
I posted on Twitter, some iconic quote unquote passing the torch moments. You had The Rock.
Yes,
we had Hogan passing it to Rock at WrestleMania 18. Then you had The Rock passing it to Cena at WrestleMania 29. And then you had No Mercy with John Cena passing it to Roman Reigns. I mean, Roman, he's had a nice career so far. I don't think he's even reached, the pinnacle of his career. But The Rock, when Hogan passed it to The Rock left in a couple of years and has been part-time after that. Cena, when he was passed by, from The Rock to Cena, a couple years later, now we're at that point to where Cena is going to be probably, part-time. It's kind of weird timing for the passing of the torch. Maybe Reigns hasn't deserved it, but, Reigns is obviously the guy WWE wants to push to the moon for the next, 4 or 5 years. So he's the right choice.
Well, that's what I guess that's the way. When you say WWE wants to push him to the moon, the WWE, you have to have. There's always been, and I just think there always will be a pecking order, so to speak, in your in the talent roster, and you have that you usually have that one featured guy that is considered the guy. That's what they've been talking about on their interviews. Who's the guy? And I believe is obviously a Vince decision when the final say so on who is going to be the guy. And then you have to feature them or push, as you want to call it. And sometimes, if the fans don't feel that person is ready for that big push, they resent it. And man, that's been part of the knock on John Cena for so many years. A lot of the fans, and even John will tell you, at the time he was put into that situation, he wasn't ready for that big push. But he developed over the years, and that's what a push is about. It's about giving the guy the opportunity to develop. And John certainly did. But there's always that element of fans out there that booed John because they felt like, that he was that push or that spot was handed to him. And and I think there's that same element with Roman Reigns. Unfortunately, that just is something that will kind of always be there. But you just have to, as John did a great job of living with that throughout his career. And I think Roman will as well. But yeah, the company has to have that guy that they're gonna, that's gonna be the man. And I guess right now it looks like Roman Reigns is that guy.
So I mean, Cena didn't retire, but I'm sure now.
No, that was one of the things he said. He said, but my role will definitely be changing, and by that he means he's not going to be that guy that go-to guy that has to be at every show, or the crowd's not there, or has to be on every TV, or the ratings aren't there, and he'll have. But I mean, everybody had seen this coming. They knew it was going to happen, and John even said in that famous promo that he did, hey, the only reason I'm still here is because, talking to Roman, you haven't been able to do your job. You haven't been able to take my place, or nobody else has either. So he feels that now that Roman is the guy, and that'll free John up to do things that, he wants to do more movies, these commercials. He's on the Good Morning America all the time. There's just other things that come along after you've been the guy for so long in the WWE. There are so many other opportunities are presented to you, and it's always, you can't blame somebody for wanting to be in the movies or develop, just like The Rock did. I mean, my gosh, The Rock went from being the guy in the WWE to being the highest paid actor in all of Hollywood. So who wouldn't want to do that?
When we're talking about, Cena being the guy and, passing that torch to Reigns, obviously that means, Reigns is the face of the company. But does that also mean when it comes to the locker room and kind of being the leader, Cena is that guy, now Reigns is taking over the reins of that responsibility too, probably?
Yeah, I think so. But what's a funny thing in the business? When you get to be that guy, you suddenly no longer dress in the same locker room as all the rest of the guys. You have your own bus, or you have your own locker room, and you don't have. Then you're not in that quote one big talent locker room, male talent locker room.
Yeah.
So, there is a little bit of a fallacy in the fact of the guy that's the guy is all of a sudden the locker room leader. That's sort of I don't know what you would call it, but that's just not necessarily real.
When you're the guy, I guess you become the leader of the locker room, the leader of, quote unquote the WWE, but you're also taking in the perks.
Yeah, and that's just way I don't know, that's just the way the business itself evolved. A guy like Brock Lesnar, you never see Brock. He's on his bus, and then he, well, I don't know if Brock actually has a bus now because he's there so infrequently, but he certainly has his own locker room, and you never see him. He stays in there until basically it's time for his match, and goes out and comes back, and then he's gone.
Yeah, Brock doesn't like people, so he doesn't like being around people, I guess. So he just this is a guy that lives in the woods and hunts and hunts for fun. But no, it was great. It was great to see you back on the pre-show. Great to see you, on Raw Talk, and great to see you back on WWE TV.
I'm looking. I know you see me looking down at my phone here while we're doing this, but it's just some of those things that we were just talking about. Some of these opportunities that come people's way. When you've been like John Cena, to do movies and all of that sort of stuff. And I've just got an email that came from my agent. I have an agent in Hollywood. You know that, don't you?
Oh, in Hollywood. Ooh.
Yes, I have.
All right. So what's the
Michael Dacey is his name, and he's is the guy that gets. Somebody wants to contact me for being in a movie or something. You got to go through Michael Dacey, basically, something like that. Listen to this.
Okay.
This is they're talking to this is an email that Michael Dacey got. It says, "Hi there. I hope you're well, Michael. Would like to check availability on Jerry Lawler regarding a potential stint as Don in the Broadway musical Kinky Boots. What? Please let me know if he has a window for a 6-week or longer run anytime between now and the summer of 2018.
Wait a minute. Is this the Broadway musical Kinky Boots?
Yes.
Have you ever been on the stage of a play before?
I actually did I was Daddy Warbucks at one time in the play Annie at the Orpheum Theater in Memphis at one time. But it was just kind of a little guest celebrity type, spot there. But yeah, that's kind of weird, isn't it? A potential as Don in the Broadway musical Kinky Boots. I checked it out, and Don is the guy that I guess actually owns the boot factory where they make these boots.
Yeah, I'm checking it out right now. Well, there's a little wrestling history. Cyndi Lauper is she does the music and the lyrics for Kinky Boots.
Yeah, there's a little bit of wrestling history. You're right.
Yeah. So, so you're gonna do it?
See, please let me know if he has a window for a 6-week or longer run. I mean, I asked my agent. I said, "Well, what do you mean a 6-week run?" He said, "Well, they do the show every single day, and sometimes twice a day on weekends." And I said, "So you have to move to New York City and be on Broadway every single day for 6 weeks?" He said, "Yeah."
Oh, this is great! Oh my God!
No, it's not great.
I would come out for this, and I would. This would be great to see.
Yeah, I also looked up Don as well, and I think that is at one point at the end he's wearing some of these kinky boots. Have you seen what they look like?
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I'm looking at the stuff right now. Yeah, it's Jerry Lawler going to be on Broadway. Look at you. I mean, you got to do it, King. You've accepted, right?
No, I haven't accepted yet. No.
Are you going to?
I don't know. 6 weeks of doing anything is a long time, man.
I'm sure the payday is very, very nice.
Well, that's the reason I haven't accepted yet. I'm not sure exactly what the offer is there.
But still, I mean, that's that's another thing off your. I mean, I'm sure it's not in your bucket list, but another thing to put on your resume.
That was appearing on Broadway was not on my bucket list.
I mean, you've been on Letterman's show. You've been on WWE. You've wrestled at WrestleMania. And now Jerry Lawler at the age of what? You're gonna be 69 this year?
No, I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna be 68. I'm only 67 now.
I know, I'm kidding. But we just like 69. But
you're making fun of my age because you know that this weekend is my 50th high school reunion.
You weren't gonna say that though.
What?
You weren't gonna say that on the show?
Well, you just brought up. I mean, once you tell somebody that I'm gonna be 69, good grief, that's not true. But.
King, you got to do this. You got to do this Broadway. You got to do it. I'm sure Lauren.
No,
would love to be in New York.
Yeah, Lauren is so excited about it.
That's 6 weeks. That's 6 weeks of shopping.
Manhattan. Yes, exactly. That's the reason I'm not thrilled about it. That would be a 6-week shopping spree.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I mean, they better pay you very well for that. If you're be there. But I would definitely come out. I would definitely come to New York. And definitely, I've never been on Broadway. Seeing a Broadway play, this will be great. Seeing one of my favorite wrestlers of all time be a Don on Broadway. So, well, keep us updated on The status.
I'll
of that
definitely,
king.
I'll definitely keep you updated on the status of that. You know who we should have had? We should have had on Brian Gewirtz. We should have had Brian Gewirtz on because Brian was so instrumental in Rock's career in helping out with this. Brian helped with some of the. Brian was a great writer for the WWE and was really helped out with get that phone over there. It really helped out with a lot of the Rock's interviews. So it would have been great to have him on. Why didn't you think of that?
Well, someone's trying to get a takeout order.
Yes, I know.
No one's answering the phone. You got workers? You got work? Where's the workers in the back?
Yeah, but they're busy. Look how it's lunchtime. They're busy. Somebody got it.
All right.
Somebody got it.
All right. Refill the barbecue sauce over there, too. Refill that. All right, cool. bring a ladle on over here. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so we should have Brian come on. He is, you were telling me some stories off the air. Is it safe to say that Brian is the man responsible for all those Rock promos?
Well, I mean, he certainly worked with The Rock on all of his great promos, the songs that The Rock did, which were some of my all-time favorite moments of The Rock being on TV. Those songs, I remember that one especially that he sat down and sang to Vicky Guerrero, and I just died. You can hear me dying laughing all through the back of that promo.
And then she'll ask me, do I look alright? And I said, no, biatch, you look horrible tonight. Don't go anywhere, Vicky. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear this, because the world wants to sing it to you. You abuse all your power, waste everybody's time. You dress like a hooker, not the expensive kind. So get your ass to the airport.
Yeah, Brian Gewirtz was a writer that and you know what? I had a time. I think his dad. I think Brian Gewertz's dad worked, if I'm not mistaken, on the TV show Taxi with Andy Kaufman and all that stuff. I think he was one of the writers for that show, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, Brian was, hey, it's no secret. The Rock will tell you in a minute. Brian still works now for, what's the Rock's movie company? Seven
Bucks Productions.
Yeah, $7 Production. What does that come from? Do you know?
I know. Do you?
Tell me.
When The Rock started, or when he got released by his Canadian Football League team, he only had $7 in his pocket.
Yep.
Come on, I know my Rock history. I grew up on The Rock.
And listen, I'm going to tell you somebody else we should have had on as well. He'll tell you a great Rock story. Downtown Bruno, Harvey Whippleman. Because when The Rock first came to Memphis, I think he still may have only had $6 by that time. Somehow he made it down to Memphis with about spending like $1, and he comes to Memphis and he was just completely flat broke. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember how that worked back in the day. I don't know if WWE had already signed these guys before they kind of sent them down to Memphis to be developed. We were, that was the time in the USWA point that WWE was using the Memphis as kind of a developmental territory way before NXT was thought about or anything like that. And I don't know if they would just send some guys down that everybody that they sent down, they wound up eventually using. And I don't know if I guess they were probably on some sort of retainer, so to speak. I don't know. But when The Rock got here to start working, he was flat broke. And he stayed with Downtown Bruno, Harvey Whippleman, who lived in a little trailer.
Oh.
And when I'm talking about trailer, I'm not talking about like a house trailer, a double wide or anything like that. It was one of like the little, almost like a little Airstream trailer that you pull behind a car.
Yeah.
And that's where The Rock stayed and lived with and traveled with Downtown Bruno. Bruno was, just really helped The Rock out when he was down and out before he got, any kind of break and any kind of money in his pocket. And now all these years later, I wish we had Bruno on here because now do you think he would ever remember downtown Bruno? You think he would ever call and say, hey, let me pay you back that money I owe you, or let me throw a few bucks your way, or let me buy you a car now that I'm a multimillionaire since, you let me use your car and all of this kind of stuff. But, Bruno's there's a little animosity there towards The Rock because he feels like The Rock has forgotten where he came from. But anyway, when The Rock first showed up in Memphis, man, he was a $7 guy. That's true.
Yeah.
But we got off topic about Brian Gewirtz. Brian Gewirtz still works for The Rock and his $7
Productions.
$7 Productions. That's it.
And
they're doing right now. They're doing the movie on Paige's life.
Yeah, they're doing the whole production. They recorded something at Raw 1 week in L.A. A few months back. So I guess there's been some screening of that movie.
And Michael Cole told me that they just and speaking of screening of movies, remind me when we get through talking about this to tell you about the movie that we talked about that's coming out, Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, about Jim Carrey. But anyway, Michael Cole told me the other night that he just finished doing the voiceovers for one of the matches, where he called the match of one of Paige's matches. And he said, it was supposed to be you and I, but you weren't. At the time, they didn't know you were going to be in L.A., and so I missed my opportunity to be a part of that movie.
Oh, so who filled in with you? Who filled in?
Nobody, just Michael did it by himself.
Oh, okay. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, there goes.
And I said, did they show you on camera? He said, of course not.
Oh.
He said, just my voice.
That's The Rock. That's The Rock's fault. That's all the fault of The Rock. Can't forget the.
And I guess Vince Vaughn is in it. He plays one of the main characters in it.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn. I love Vince Vaughn.
The Rock makes a short cameo appearance in there.
Of course, it's his production. Of course, he's going to be in that movie.
Well, they said he's in there for 3 seconds.
Oh, well, I mean, that's 3 seconds.
That's a real cameo, right?
Well, they can promote that The Rock is in it, so they can officially say The Rock is in the movie. So they can tie it to his name. But no, So obviously the Rock $7 Productions. He just opened an ad agency today with his former wife, who's his best friend, his agent. So The Rock has come a long way since.
He's become a conglomerate,
and it might be running for president in the year 2022. I mean, that's just
crazy.
I mean, Jerry. Obviously, you've seen a lot of guys come and go from Memphis, but when obviously. Being the son of Rocky Johnson, I don't think we'll have time to talk about Rocky Johnson at all. I did want to give respective time to that feud you had with Rocky Johnson. But when The Rock came here, obviously, being known as Dewey, Rocky Johnson's son. But did you ever think that here's a guy that would become worldwide famous in many areas of entertainment?
No, I did not. Does anybody ever think about it? Like when I first met you, did I ever think that one day you and I would be doing a podcast together? No.
You don't remember any of our first time meeting at all.
No, I do. I do remember stuff. But here's the thing. And this has been something about me in the business because people have asked me the question a million times. Like when you met Hulk Hogan, did you ever think, and he was just playing in a band, did you ever think that someday? No, I don't think about things like that. I mean, I'm in the moment. I think about, is this guy going to have a stinking match with me, or is he going to be able to take a pile driver? I think about stuff like that, but I don't think about the future or my future or anything. I never. When I first started, or as I was progressing along in the business, I did never think about what was going to happen to me in the future. Never.
Was he signed with WWE when he came to Memphis?
I thought we just talked about that a minute ago. I don't know how they did that. I don't know he got to Memphis, he had $7.
Yeah.
So it seems like if he was already signed with him, he would have had a little money, but he didn't even have walking around money. That's what Bruno had to help him with all the time. And he certainly did. He certainly wasn't making much money in Memphis either. That was some of the times where when you wrestled in Memphis back during some of those days, you were doing it really for the love of the business. You weren't here because you thought you were going to get rich or make a lot of money, because sometimes we didn't draw big crowds. That's where the guys literally got paid by what you drew, and that's the biggest way the business has changed now. But back in the day, the guys got paid a percentage of the gate of what money was taken in that night. So, if you had a bunch of bad talent on the card that didn't draw, or if you didn't book a good angle or whatever, and it didn't draw, you had just a small crowd, everybody got a small payday. So, back in the day when The Rock was here, and he wasn't a big featured guy at the time or anything, so he wasn't making a lot of money.
And obviously, WWE, wanted to get him very quickly, and you had to put together a match. We'll talk about that very shortly. But because of you're already 3 years in being a Raw commentator, so you were already with WWE at the time, but also going to Memphis and doing stuff for the Memphis territory. Did they say, "Hey, what is your analysis about so and so?" Obviously, the Rocky Maivia, well, the Rock. Well, Flex Kavana. Did they ask you what your assessment was of this kid, or?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but they were keeping a close eye on him too. They would see our TV shows and they would get a report back every night about all the guys. I mean, there are guys down there like Kurt Angle who came down there, and I just tons of their guys got their start down there. And yeah, they kept a close eye on him. And that's what happened with The Rock. All of a sudden, they weren't worried about the Memphis territory. The WWE wasn't. They were just concerned about their talent that they had working there. So, it meant nothing to them to all of a sudden. It meant nothing to them that we had The Rock or Flex Kavana featured as our champion in some of the shows, and they just would call up and say, "Hey, we need," in The Rock's case, they called us up on a weekend or on a Friday and said, "Hey, we need The Rock to be somewhere Monday on Monday Night Raw." And we said, "Well, we got him as our champion. What are we going to do?" And so we had to throw together a TV match and change the title and put him in a loser leave town match on TV to explain his sudden absence. Because, that TV match was the last match we had him for.
Well, you had the title at the time.
And I had the title.
Yeah.
But that's where we put loser leave town against him winning. That was the only, the rationale we could have for him accepting a loser leave town match, because it had the opportunity to win the title.
It just is, watching some of these promos, obviously we all know about The Rock's great promos and the delivery of them and having the persona. I mean, in these promos, you hear, here in Memphis, you hear a little bit of what would become The Rock, but you can tell he was, still really green when it comes to promos.
Ain't that right, Flex?
That's right, Bart, man. This Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum, it's going to be Big Dark and Pretty himself, Flex Kavana, and the Bartman together once again. And I promise all you tag teams, you better get ready for the time of your life. Because here we come.
Yeah, he hadn't met Brian Gewirtz yet. But no, The Rock, I don't know. I think that part of doing a successful or a really good promo is something that naturally has to be developed. That's why they sent these guys down there, because they had an opportunity to be on our TV without having to stick them out on worldwide TV yet, and so they could make the mistakes or they could, build up that confidence and everything. And Rock, that was just one of the things that was there from day one, was his personality, his charisma. And so, but then that got, every time he was on TV and every time he talked in front of the cameras, that got stronger and stronger. So he became real quickly, he became a great guy on the mic.
Who named him? Who gave him his name?
I swear I do not remember that, but I know that it was not something that I came up with or Jerry Jarrett came up with. It was either something that The Rock himself, Dwayne, came up with, or WWE. It was one of those two. I know I wouldn't have dreamed up the name Flex Kavana in a million years,
Yeah, it's just very interesting, the name. And obviously went on to be Rocky Maivia, and then just known as The Rock. So when obviously you're involved in this first match with Survivor Series in '96, and you had a front row seat to his career. But he, quickly became one of the, Nation of Domination. The fans started, turning on, when he was the good guy, turning on him, die Rocky die with some of the signs. that were shown on Raw. But I mean, you had you obviously being involved in Memphis, but also you go up on Raw and you would have a first row seat to seeing The Rock's career. I mean, it just took off so quickly.
Yeah, it did, and that's that was at a time when The Rock wasn't. The Rock wasn't. I really don't think at the time that they like single The Rock out. Like sometimes, like we talked about earlier with John Cena, they said, "Hey, here's the guy. We're going with him." I don't think that was the case with The Rock. I think with The Rock, it happened because The Rock was so talented and The Rock was so good. He grabbed that spot on his own. His performances grabbed that spot for The Rock. My gosh, I just can't tell you how I look forward to The Rock coming out and his segment on the show, his interviews and that sort of stuff. They were priceless. They were just everyone was one of a kind, and every week it seemed like it would get better. So it was just, and then of course the trademark raising of the eyebrow, just The Rock being something different, something that they hadn't seen before, and it was it's obviously really worked.
It just is amazing watching these promos because you mentioned it before how you love the Attitude Era and some of the risque promos. Poo-Tang Pie and the song that went with it.
Who would have ever dreamed that you could talk about Poo-Tang Pie on television, on worldwide television? It was awesome.
It's tough to be The Rock. No, it really is. Because you all know The Rock is the most electrifying man in all of showbiz. You see, when The Rock gets too much of the fame and all the bright lights, he loves to kick back and have a slice. No. The Rock is going to eat the whole damn pie.
It was great. And just, some of the things, he said, a lot of these things that he said would definitely not fly in today's culture and in today's WWE. But he does make his returns. He does come here and go. Come and go to WWE. He had a 3 WrestleMania deal. The host of WrestleMania, the one that were the WrestleMania where you wrestled Jerry, and then also main eventing 28 and 29 with John Cena. But just to be able to come back and just be looking jacked and still be able to perform in a ring, and I know as the years go by, it gets sometimes harder and harder, but he's still relevant, still doing movies. Might be running for president, and can still come back and wrestle a match if need be. It's just
absolutely
it's amazing. But it just is really when he does come back, it's always a big deal.
Do you remember that night at? Oh gosh, I'm the world's worst. I've probably been involved in more WrestleManias than anybody, but that's why all the numbers run together for me. What WrestleMania was it? But anyway, before the show, like to open the show, you had The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Hulk Hogan.
That was WrestleMania.
Was that when Hulk forgot the city that we were in?
That was WrestleMania 30. In New York,
but I mean,
New Orleans.
That was just like, to me, as a fan of the business, that was one of the most special moments that I've ever witnessed. To see those 3 guys in the ring together at the same time, that was just amazing. And so that, like you said, anytime The Rock comes back, it gives you that. It's that kind of, I don't want to say nostalgic feeling, but you're just suddenly in the presence of the guy that is responsible for so many famous moments in the WWE's history.
Oh yeah, it's just and obviously moving on to movies and being a star there, and obviously possibly running for president because his name's been tossed around and he's been asked about it plenty of times. His own production company. I mean, going from a guy living in a trailer in Memphis, starting to where he is now is just. It's a credit to him and his hard work, but also the people around him making him look like $1 million.
Yeah, and The Rock is one of those few guys that has. I don't remember that there's not ever been a segment of the WWE universe that has been anti-Rock. I don't recall that. So I would think that running for president would be the last thing The Rock would want to do. Cool to talk about, but as you can see with the way the political climate is, half of the people of the country are going to immediately hate the president, no matter what, what. So, and it's just now that situation is just more so than ever. So I don't think The Rock would. I think he would sit back and say, why? What do I have to gain out of doing that? And I think most of the people that do run for president, they're power. They're power crazy or power hungry, and I don't think Rock is that kind of guy. I think he enjoys popularity and that sort of stuff, but I don't think he's a power hungry type of guy.
Well, speaking of politics, when you ran for mayor, The Rock was
almost. Yes, he came down to Memphis and campaigned for me.
Yeah, he had the Lawler for mayor sticker on, and there was a commercial feature. It didn't feature The Rock, but he was in there. Talking to people with you. Obviously, The Rock was huge when he ran for mayor. Obviously, to have that help for people to come and talk to you and get your message out was terrific. But yeah, The Rock was helping you out.
Oh, and he did help me immensely. He helped me so much that it scared me that I thought I might win, which looking back would have been the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. The best thing that ever happened to me was not winning the mayoral race. I don't even know what I was thinking now when I look back on it. But yeah, I mean, listen, there was a field of, this was one of those crazy times where it wasn't like a Republican against a Democrat. There were 12 candidates running for office, running for the mayor, the office of mayor in that race. And one of them, of course, the incumbent mayor, Willie Harrington, he had been the mayor for, 8 years already or something like that. And everybody knew he was pretty much unbeatable. He was the first African-American mayor ever in Memphis, and Memphis is like 60% African-Americans. And, he was the guy to beat. And then, as I said, 12 candidates, and almost all of them were professional politicians, except me. And so anyway, I wound up coming in third with the mayor got like 75,000. The guy Willie Harrington that won got like 75,000 votes. Then another African American politician got like 40,000 votes, and I wound up getting like 35,000 votes in that race. Which was a big number. I beat out the Republican candidate in the race. So it was like and a lot of that came because of the Rock being so popular and coming down to Memphis and campaigning for me. So he was a big help for me there.
Did you ask? I mean, obviously you asked him. Was he more than willing to do that for you?
Yeah, he was. The Rock. I mean, Dwayne is just. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to butter him up for another appearance or anything like that. But hey, he is, except maybe in the case of Downtown Bruno, he's a guy that never really forgot his roots. I mean, just like you said, naming his production company after the fact that he came to Memphis with $7 in his pocket. That shows you that he doesn't really forget where he came from. And every time I've ever seen him at shows or since he's become the big star in Hollywood, he's a guy that'll always come over and talk and spend time with you. And he's just a really great guy.
Yeah. I interviewed him once back in 2012 here up in Cleveland. It was one of the Raws before WrestleMania, and I was able to interview him for about 15 minutes, and obviously it's a big deal to me because I'm obviously a huge fan of The Rock, but he was just an awesome guy. Took pictures of everybody, signed some stuff, and just took the time to not only do the interview, some guys do the interview and leave, but also hang out and chit-chat with people. Just a great guy, at least with mine.
Well, why didn't you call The Rock up and ask him to be on this podcast?
I don't have The Rock's number. You probably have The Rock's number.
I don't have The Rock's number. No,
yeah,
I don't know.
So, I mean, I tried my hardest to get The Rock on with tweets and also getting a hold of his PR company to no avail. So maybe down the road. Maybe you never know down the road. Brian would be a good person to try to get The Rock on. Going through him.
Brian Gewirtz?
Yeah.
You're right. And I do have his number.
Maybe down the line. You never know who. We got Terry Funk on. I mean, who knows who will come on the show in the future? I mean, you never know. But we're going to do a Squash the Myth, and we have some topics that have not been confirmed either way.
Squash the myth. This is like I'm going to become the fact checker.
Basically, when it comes to certain wrestling folk tales and myths and
how will that work? Just throw one out there to me, and we'll show everybody how that's going to work.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of myths concerning just you in general, King, and
oh Lord,
maybe some PG ones. We can't. I mean,
let's do PG.
There's some rated R ones that are out there about you that we can't discuss on the show probably, but and also just some people that you've been involved with over the years. So, do you want to do one this week? You have time?
Sure. What am I? I'm just waiting for the check here.
Okay, so let's do one. All right. So this is our first official Squash the Myth, and this myth is obviously from Memphis, Tennessee, and it's about involving you and a certain wrestling, an angle that turned out to be true. This is, when I read this, I'm like, this can't be true, but it turned out to be true. So Ting, you were booking in Memphis at this time, and there was a wrestler in Memphis, Tennessee, that the police were looking for at the time, and I'm trying to look up. Billy Travis is his name. This was
Billy Travis.
This was in the 90s.
I loved Billy Travis. He was such an awesome guy. He passed away, but I loved Billy Travis.
So Billy was wrestling on the show. You guys were. This was a live television wrestling program, and the police show up because they had a warrant out for Billy Travis. They arrested him, and here's the myth. You can explain if this is true or not. So. Sometime Billy Travis was arrested at a live show at Memphis TV, and backstage, since you, Jerry, book on the fly, you managed to talk into the cops into arresting Travis during a live on-air angle involving Travis getting arrested for his part in a backstage beatdown during the previous week's shows. So, Jerry, you're going to squash the myth, or are you going to confirm that this is true?
Well, okay. Part of that is true, and part of it is not true. Probably the main part is true. Yeah, we were doing our live TV that was on every Saturday morning in Memphis from 11 to 12:30, and apparently what had happened was one of Billy Travis's baby's mama had saw him on the show and or had heard that he was going to be on the show that morning. She had called the police, and I guess earlier there a warrant had been issued for Billy for non-payment or got behind on his child support. And so we're right in the middle of the show, and all of a sudden in walks like 4 policemen, and they called me over first because I was in charge of the show, and they said, Jerry, we got a warrant for Billy Travis. We got to take him with us. And what I tried to talk them into doing was waiting till the show was over. We still had like an hour to go in the show. And I said, could you guys just, wait till the show's over, because we got Billy in this, we got Billy featured in this match coming up Monday night. And can he just at least go out and make his interview about the match before you guys take him? And that's what I tried to talk him into. And I was unsuccessful. They said, no, we got to take him right now. And so I, just like you said, booking on the fly, I thought we got to have Billy Travis at least on the show because he was in a featured match Monday night. So I told the police, I said, well, I'm going to get the cameras back here and I'm going to film you guys taking him out. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be on camera. And I said, well, I want Billy Travis on camera, and you guys don't want to be on camera. And I said, well, I got to have him on for the show. So I'm having the cameras come back here. And it was really, it was nothing they could do about it. I mean, they wanted to arrest Billy. By this time, they had him in the handcuffs. So we just call the cameras back, and we're just saying, there's a commotion going on in the back. Whoa, what's happening here? And suddenly you go back there, and here's Billy Travis in handcuffs and 4 policemen around him, and he's screaming, you can't have me arrested. I can't believe, Lawler, you're having me arrested. You can't do this. And so, we filmed him and lead him out the back door and into the parking lot and putting him in a police car. And it took the bad stigma away from being arrested because it made it look like it was part of the TV show, and it made it look like it was an angle. So nobody really, I don't know, nobody really got upset about him being arrested, you know. And somebody screaming, "We'll get you out. You'll be out before Monday night. You know, don't worry."
What a wild match.
Wow, I told you.
And when you think about it, the Southern Heavyweight Championship. Oh, come on,
Absolute outrage. This is ridiculous. The police are here, and they're arresting Billy Joe Travis. Now, who's behind this? This is ridiculous. It's some kind of conspiracy. Because he's the champ. Camera out of my face. Luther!
Oh, my
Luther
Lord.
Banks!
yes, Billy Joe Travis being let out of the studio.
Luther Banks!
Michael?
I don't know about this. I guess we will find out shortly what's going on. My goodness.
Billy, I don't want you to worry about a thing. Luther, I'm going to call.
Billy Joe Travis being
Bailey,
taken
Robert Shapiro,
by the authorities. There's
all
Luther
down.
Biggs trying
I'm gonna get you the
to
best
intervene, but apparently to no avail. Billy Joe Travis being led away here. Well, this is a unique turn of
Well,
events.
gosh, I guess.
Whoa. Well, we're talking about the Southern Heavyweight Champion from a few years, from a long time back, and the current USWA champion being escorted out of the studio. Well, what do you make of that, Stacy?
Must be his singing.
It was one of those things that really turned out to it worked to our advantage, because that was more exciting than Billy just going out and we were able to blow that into a big deal, and people knew that was really the Memphis police, and they saw him getting put in a police car, so it created a lot of interest and a lot of talk. But yeah, that was a booking on the fly decision right there.
Yeah, that was like almost Attitude Era, a little bit, like right there. Just like a guy getting arrested. Reminds me of Stone Cold getting arrested and put in the car. But this was real life. He was actually getting arrested.
Yeah, he really was. You're right.
So those are just some of the examples of some myths of wrestling that we can talk about on the show. Well, let's do next week's show. We're going to talk about why all of a sudden the very, very popular and highly rated Memphis live wrestling on the Saturday mornings, the reason why those shows stopped all of a sudden, and Jerry has the reason.
I will tell you, it involves a.
Oh, come on, we can't give it away. People can probably put two and two
that's just
together.
a story, and no, they can't. You'll never put two and two together on that.
All right, so we're going to talk about that next week. We may have a guest to go with the show as well, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, bye-bye.
The bell has not sounded to end the match. They are still underway. Unified world title at stake. Lawler put the belt at stake. If Flex Kavana loses, he's out of the USWA, and they have been battling. Scott Bowden, what is he doing? He's in the ring. Oh, Bart Sawyer pulls him back out of the ring.
Bart Sawyer was brought out here by Kavana as we went to our commercial break, and Sawyer's even things up. Meanwhile,
Kavana's got it down. We've got 15 seconds before we're going to have to leave the air. Flex Kavana just missed the chance to be the world champion.
Kavana had Lawler, and the King nails Flex
Lawler
Kavana.
nailed him.
Oh, he set
He's
him
got a
up
power
here.
driver.
Pile drive Flex Kavana. He's got him covered. Bruno's in there.
1, 2.
Oh, no.
Kavana's gone. We got to go. We'll see you next week. Until then, for Corey Macklin, I'm Dave Brown. So long, everybody.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.